5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Gringo Show, coming to you live from Paseo de la Reforma in Mexico City. So glad to have you with us tonight. If you're expecting we're going to have clowns playing ping pong or cats who play the piano, I can't promise you that. Although we are on live TV and anything can happen. You never know. What I can promise you is a great show because we are only 3 days until what is probably one of the most important and consequential elections in Mexico's history. Some say if President Andrés Manuel López Obrador gets a supermajority in Congress, we will become more like Venezuela, which I guess means they'll ban tacos and force us to eat arepas every single day. Which is not as bad as if we became more like Colombia, because their arepas just suck. Sorry, Colombia, it's better with meat inside. So we're going to talk about all that has been happening as Mexico votes, and I'm very excited about this. We have Kate Linthicum, the Mexico correspondent of the Los Angeles Times, on the show tonight to talk politics, so it should be fun. Also, we got big sports news and a visit by Vice President Kamala Harris to Mexico next week. There's so much happening. Stay with us. You will regret it. You won't regret it unless you have another political comedy show about Mexico in English you need to watch tonight. If so, fine, go. I don't care. Wait, is there another show? Wait. No, please don't go. I really need you to be here with us tonight. In our top story tonight, a miracle happened in Mexico City last week. No, the Virgin did not appear again on the shroud, nor did Luis Miguel appear in public, having magically lost 50 pounds. And no, someone did not stop at a stop sign in Mexico City. That would be crazy. But after 23 years of waiting, the Mexico City soccer team, Cruz Azul, finally won a championship in the Liga MX. Now listen, that's not too long. The Cubs waited 108 years for theirs. The Red Sox another 86 years. There are a lot of professional sports teams that have never won. But what made this streak so terrible is that the team lost 6 consecutive finals. So shocking, it led many people to believe that the team was cursed. But the curse was broken on Saturday night as Cruz Azul beat the Santos from Torreon. The team that's owners were like, let's name the Saints. So maybe Jesus can give us an extra hand. You know, he loves Saints, right? So, well, that strategy failed as they lost by an aggregate score of 2-1. After the game, the city went nuts. More than 80,000 people flocked to the Angel Independencia in the nation's capital right at the conclusion of the game. A massive crowd, especially during a pandemic. Yeah, it was nuts. People were everywhere, dancing, shooting fireworks, and I really thought the Metrobus shelter was going to collapse. Incredibly scary, but thankfully the celebration went on without incident. We'll just have to wait for June 8th or so to see if there was a massive super spreader event, then we'll have to go back to Semáforo Rojo. And what I don't understand is everybody was yelling, achoo, achoo. So I was like, why is everybody sneezing? During pandemic, people are sneezing, you got to go away. But everybody came together for this one. So I was a little hoping that everybody's going to be okay. For more on the reaction to the big win from Mexico City citizens, we go now to Chilangoland, Julian Valois with more.
What's up, everybody? Julian Valois here, reporting in front of Mexico City's Angel of Independence on Reforma Avenue, where thousands of Cruz Azul fans gathered on Sunday night to celebrate the team's big victory, their first since 1997, which of course is a long time ago, right? That's when Netscape Navigator was the world's #1 browser. That's when the President of the United States was hooking up with interns. It's been a long time. So I'm going to get a little bit more information from the people here today to see how they reacted to the big win. ¿Feliz que había ganado el Cruz Azul?
Sí, ya por fin. 23 años pasaron y ya.
Damián, ¿eres fan del Cruz Azul? ¿Es esto?
Claro que sí.
¿Y cómo te sientes?
Pues contento, feliz de este triunfo tan anhelado.
Antonio, ¿eres fan del Cruz Azul?
No lo soy, soy de las Chivas, pero no me desagrada Cruz Azul. Prefiero que haya ganado Cruz Azul y no el América.
Cuando despertaste el lunes, ¿creíste que era real o...?
Tuve que entrar a Twitter para ver, dije, sí,
comprobarlo?
sí, fue gol, sí, real.
Sí, ¿estás feliz que habían ganado?
Pues sí.
¿Por qué crees que tomó tanto tiempo Cruz Azul para ganar?
Siento que fue como una ola que se fue acumulando en cuestión de que perdieron una, perder otra, entonces ya era como...
Bueno, es que yo pienso que esto ya era mental lo que ellos traían. Ya manejaban una presión.
Creo que está manipulado. No es posible que un super equipo como Cruz Azul no haya ganado en 20 años.
Yo pensaba lo mismo.
Ahorita hasta que se cambiaron de estadio ya pudimos ser campeones, entonces también pudiera ser el estadio que teníamos una maldición por ahí.
Pues cada equipo debe ganar un día.
Sí, exacto. Menos el Atlas.
Sí, menos el Atlas.
So although I did manage to get many reactions, there were some America and Chivas fans who did not quite have the same vibe of celebration as some of the Azul fans that we met today. But overall, I think we have a pretty excited city. Back to you, Dan.
All right. Thanks, Julian, for the report. We have now on the show with us super fan and frequent contributor to the Gringo Show. We have to put him on with us today to talk about this, Mr. Kenneth Smith. Kenneth, how are you?
How you doing, Dan? Very well, thank you.
We can't hear you, Ken. Oh, there you go. Now we can hear you.
Great. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're a little bit delayed on your audio, but hopefully it'll correct as we go along. But Ken, you were in the stadium on Sunday night. I know there was 25% capacity, but tell us about the mood in the stadium.
Well, Sunday was an incredible evening for all Cruz Azul fans. I mean, you can imagine that even though the stadium could not be filled because of the COVID restrictions, 25% was a very loud 25%. I mean, people were waiting for years for this to happen. It finally did. And, as they always with Cruz Azul, it went to the last minute, right? But this time around, we didn't fail. After 6 finals lost in a row, we were able to do it. And it was just incredible to get rid of that curse that people were carrying on their shoulders for such a long time. And it was amazing, as you showed, how the city exploded in celebration. It was really an incredible night.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I'm a Mets fan. I'm a Jets fan. We've been lost for about 35 years. I get it. So for your 23 years, it must have been a huge relief. How did that feel for you?
Oh, well, I mean, it was absolutely incredible because we had been so close so many times. I mean, as we have talked about it before in the show, if we were a team that never made it to the final, then you'd say, well, they have no chance. There's other teams out there that will never see the light of day. But for us, it was always el llamerito, and to finally be able to pull the season together, especially after that horrible loss in the semifinals against Pumas last December. I mean, to be able to pick up the team, change coaches, and really get your act together and win it like this, it was incredible. I think it was awesome for the city as well. It was the first really big, important sports event after the pandemic in Mexico City. And there was a lot of solidarity. Club America congratulated Cruz Azul. The team Pumas did it as well. And I received so many congratulations from people who don't root for Cruz Azul. I don't know if it's because they had felt sorry for me, but I really think it's almost always also a question of, solidarity. The city had a very happy moment. I mean, that's the truth. And it was a lot of fun.
It was funny because you predicted this on a show that we did about a year ago. But let's run the clip, Hector.
The best players coming out today is definitely Cruz Azul. So we have a lot to offer for the future, including this year's championship.
So you did predict that they were going to win. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I called it. Then again, I've been calling it since 1997. So I guess my batting average is not that high. But yeah, it was great.
Right. And also you were saying some stuff about Pumas, which I thought was fair that, now I'm sure you're gloating that. Let's run that clip too, Hector.
Safe stadium to go watch games, so no golden showers in our place.
Now I got to tell you something. All the people celebrating on at the Angel, there were some things I didn't want to see. But were you at the Angel after the celebration?
No, I didn't. This time around, I realized that going to the Angel until 3 a.m. is a younger man's game, and I let my son, who's 19, to go down there and go crazy. He lost his cell phone, but he had a great time, and he had never seen Cruz Azul win in his entire life a championship. So you can imagine how he felt and how many, many thousands of other Mexicans did. And there was a lot of celebrations in other cities, Tampico, Oaxaca, Guadalajara. It was very interesting to see how we have a big, fan base throughout the country.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people all over the country are glutton for punishment. And like to be masochistic about their sports team. So it's good to hear. Kenneth Smith, sports fans and frequent contributor to the Gringo Show. We always appreciate having you on. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dan. Talk to you.
All right. It's really nice to see so many different people happy. As I said, I'm a Jets fan and a Mets fan, so I understand definitely what the Cruz Azul fans went through. So congratulations, Azul. With the election only days away, it seems like everything that isn't the election is being postponed. Like the fact that I haven't waxed my chest in 3 whole months. I'm sorry, maybe that's TMI for you, but I'm very superstitious. But on Tuesday, Kamala Harris is making her first trip outside the United States after being inaugurated as vice president. Her and Marlene from Duluth, Minnesota have a lot in common. Marlene's like, Fred, get your passport. We're going to Mexico. I'm wondering how Taco Bell tastes down there. The two countries have a lot to talk about because things have been tense as of late. They'll surely be discussing immigration, how to stop migrants from crossing Mexico's southern border on the way to the U.S. There are some issues with the implementation with the new USMCA trade deal, and AMLO will definitely discuss Mexico's sovereignty. Just today, President Biden announced that the U.S. would continue to fund the NGO Mexicans Against Corruption and Impunity, even though AMLO asked them last week to stop doing it. He does not like them, and he believes that the U.S. interference against Mexican affairs, the members' obsession with sovereignty. So this visit should be very, very interesting. And please listen closely, Mexico City. I know there are only a few black women in the city, so one, don't put your hair. Yes, it looks different, but no excuse to do it. And two, please don't ask her if she's related to Jay-Z, okay? After Mexico, she will be making a stop in Guatemala. Kamala, to understand more about Guatemala, it's simple. It's Mexico's Canada. They look the same, same language, nothing different except it's a different country. We'll have more on Vice President Harris's trip on next week's show. But the Mexican midterm elections are coming up this Sunday. Sunday, the day where people wake up in the morning and are like, I'm going to be the shittiest driver today. Maybe put an egg on the little gas pedal, use 2 lanes instead of 1, and I'm from Estado de Mexico. I will cut you off and blame it all on you. But hopefully people drive shitty to the polls to vote. There is much uncertainty to the outcome. The big question is, how many seats will the ruling party of Morena gain in the lower house of Congress that will decide what President Andrés Manuel López Obrador can do in the second half of his 6-year term? A few think, and many people hope, Morena will lose the majority due to recent scandals, including the Metro collapse and the handling of COVID, that will have a huge impact. AMLO thinks if he just keeps running his amulets, and no, that's not a sexual innuendo, and has a few coffees with Jesus, he'll win it all. The Spanish newspaper El País is predicting that the Morena party, or if you have Google Translate turned on, the brunette party, just a party full of women with long, dark brown hair, maybe AMLO's fantasy, I don't know, will win the majority, but not the 2/3 that AMLO is seeking, so he can permanently rename the country AMLOville and require everyone to wake up at 7 a.m. to watch his everyday press conferences. I'm going to have to agree with El País. People are mad, but AMLO still has a 62% approval rating. People believe that he relates to them is better than the opposition that has been fragmented and has not made a huge, compelling, and unified case for why people should switch, with the exception of Ricardo Anaya, who said that voting against Morena is preserving democracy.
Votar en contra de Morena, votar por las candidatas y los candidatos que le pueden ganar a Morena, es un acto patriótico.
Where do you think he was in that video? A fancy home in Huixquilucan, or maybe a hacienda in Puebla, Mexico? I wonder.
Where in Mexico is Ricardo Anaya?
Oh man, I'd love to smoke pot with that guy. Also, 430 intellectuals have urged people to vote against AMLO, inciting in a letter published in El Universal and Reforma that it was a choice between authoritarianism and democracy. Signers included Enrique Krause, who one day will get to do this show, Jorge Castaneda, and Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz. Those who AMLO dismisses as the political elite, who are out of touch with the common people. So with all of this information, I am ready to make my 2021 Mexican election prediction. Drum roll, please. Everybody, drum roll. All right, I am predicting that Morena and its partners will win 270 seats in the lower house and win 8 of the 15 governorships up for grabs in this cycle. That will give them the majority, but it will not give them the super majority. Let's see how close I hit it. Some of you know, I was so close in the US election. Damn you, Georgia. Didn't expect you to win it. But we'll see next week if I got it right. For more on the election, we welcome to the show Kate Linthicum, Mexico correspondent of the LA Times, to the show. Thanks so much for joining us, Kate. I've been so excited for you to come on with us. You recently wrote an article about AMLO and the election where you talked about his uncanny ability to sway popular opinion, even though his policies have failed to fight poverty and fulfill some of his campaign promises. And this kind of sounds like somebody we know from the United States. Tell us more about what you found out when you were researching that article.
Yeah, I mean, the comparisons with Trump are obvious. Right? This is the person that knows how to connect with the people, how to really portray himself as someone who's close to the people and understands their needs. The interesting thing in this election is if you look at what's happening in Mexico right now, you've had a pandemic that's been badly mishandled, an economy that's doing really poorly, homicides that are at their highest level in years. And yet the president of this country has a 63% approval rating. So a lot of people see a disconnect there between what's happening in the country and sort of people's perceptions of AMLO. And what's clear is he's just an incredibly skilled communicator. We see it every single morning, when he talks to the country. And the big question going into Sunday's election is, will people stand by him and stand by his promises for the future? Or will they look at sort of what's happening in the country and decide to go with someone else?
Absolutely. And so as I've been mentioning, the metro collapse, and it's funny because a lot of people don't trust the media, they don't trust the government, but when something is right in front of them and they see, it's really affecting. And as you know, in the metro, 5 million people use the metro every day. And so it was a real shocking thing, and especially eroded his core supporters. Have you seen any of that changing and that affecting the outcome of the election?
I don't know that the metro collapse has broadly swayed public opinion. What I noticed is that it was in the news a lot for like 48 hours, and then it sort of disappeared. Other things that a lot of people are paying attention to are, the electoral violence. You've seen somewhere around 80 candidates in local elections being killed around the country. But I don't know. AMLO has staying power. They don't call him the Teflon president for nothing. And I, if I were to give my prediction, I think he's going to outperform on Sunday because the people who support him really support him. And that's partly because he's sort of one of the first candidates ever or one of the first leaders in this country to talk about poverty in a real way that connects with people. And so I really think that a lot of people will continue to support him. Of course, the interesting thing is he's not even on the ballot, right? It's his party that we're talking about. But Morena, what does it stand for? It stands for AMLO at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's taken over the entire party. While we're talking today, how many different parallels with Donald Trump and what he's been doing with the Republican Party. But one of the things, it's interesting that you say this because in the last show, Agustin Barrios Gomez predicted that he would lose the majority because of the metro collapse and other things, specifically that he was propelled to win in 2018 from the youth vote. And of course, the youth make up a very large percentage of the population here, kind of very different from the United States. And it seems like that it's been eroding support because he has not supported minority groups such as women and the LGBT community as much as they had hoped for, past marijuana legislation, other things that the youth are very, very passionate about.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I always come back to is that I think Mexico is a pretty conservative country, like at its heart. And And I think AMLO, who ran as a leftist, but sort of also has a really complicated ideology, right? He's like socially conservative in a lot of ways. He hates the feminist protesters that have been marching against him. He's been kind of like, he doesn't want to weigh in on abortion or same-sex marriage. And I think he gets it. I think that Mexico's a pretty conservative country, and he's kind of like calibrated his views, or maybe they are his views, to meet, the audience. And I think people really like respond to that. So I don't know. I just think that there are a lot of people who still feel really passionately about him, despite kind of the shape the country is in, a year and a half into a pandemic that has kind of destroyed the economy in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of incumbents are losing in many countries if the people have not found that their COVID response has been successful. You represent or you're writing for a lot of the diaspora. A lot of Mexicans live in LA and in the area. What we've been noticing is that there's expected to be very low turnout of people in the United States to go and vote, and they can do that in their consulates, etc. What do people feel about the AMLO administration from outside of Mexico? I mean, we know that he has a 62% support, but what are these communities thinking about outside of the country?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm not sure I've talked to enough folks about that recently to know exactly sort of where they are. Right. I'm sure that those voters are totally informed by the last 4 years of President Trump, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty interesting kind of political mindset that they have, and I'm sure that that's kind of affecting the way that they view Mexico as well.
Go switch gears for a little bit. We have Kamala Harris's visit just coincidentally 2 days after the election. I'm wondering if you have any scoop or why that happened. But also, there's a lot of issues that are making the relationship a lot tenser than it was under Trump. And what we're surprised about is that these are two ideologues that are very different, Trump and AMLO, but it seemed like they got along much better than he is with the current administration. What are you expecting happening in this in this meeting, this bilateral meeting with Kamala Harris? The director of the CIA is coming down, right? Some other people from the U.S. What do you think's gonna come out of that?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. AMLO has taken kind of a surprisingly pugnacious attitude with the United States. It took him forever to actually recognize AMLO's victory. Biden's victory, for example, after the November elections. And then, he's called on the U.S. to stop funding or giving funds at all to some of the nonprofits that work on kind of anti-corruption, journalistic type things in Mexico. So it feels like he's kind of cruising for a confrontation, but I think he knows that Biden isn't really the confrontational type. Biden kind of will do whatever he can, I think, to, he's kind of got he's the opposite of Trump, who wanted those big kind of open conflicts. Biden seems to be someone who's much more interested in kind of maintaining, at least the appearance of good relationships. I thought it was really interesting that Biden just today announced that the U.S. is going to be donating a lot of the vaccines that aren't needed in the United States, and that a lot of them are going to go specifically to Mexico. So that's like a total act of goodwill on the part of the Biden administration, despite kind of these moves from AMLO. I think the conversation is going to be interesting. And I think, it's largely going to be dictated, this relationship is largely going to be dictated by immigration. Does Mexico continue to cooperate with the United States on stopping immigrants at its southern border? If it does, I think you have a generally pretty happy Biden administration, even if there are concerns there about journalistic freedom, for example, or, sort of the erosion of institutions. And if Mexico doesn't kind of cooperate in that way, I think then you might start to see some kind of more antagonism from the Biden folks as well.
Yeah, it's like, the new neighbor on the street. It's like old man AMLO down the street. He's like, hey man, we're trying to do good things for you. We're trying to help. And he's the guy that he was one of the last presidents to acknowledge the Biden administration win, and they keep on making inroads and offers, and he seems to just keep on being angry or not so happy about it.
But it totally works for him, though, because like he's a nationalist at heart,
Right.
and he's super into having an enemy at any given point. Like look at his entire political career. He's always the victim of election fraud or the mafia de poder, and I think for him it's kind of convenient, to show that he's willing to stand up to the United States, and it's also part of his, I think, like a political identity. I mean, he thinks that the neoliberal presidents from the past with NAFTA and other kind of free market reforms, gave up a lot of Mexican sovereignty, to foreign investors and all of that. So I think part of it is his DNA, and part of it is it's kind of a good PR move to show yourself standing up to the big mean gringos next door.
Absolutely. And we'd have Marcelo Ebrard running things over in foreign relations, and a lot of people are saying that that's the guy they trust out of the entire administration. So hopefully we'll have something good come from that meeting. Kate Linthicum from the LA Times. And Kate, I want to say how grateful we are and how important it is to have the US media and the foreign media here because of the journalists that are under attack in Mexico. You guys are really working hard to report on the news in a very authentic manner when other people may not be able to do that. So thank you so much for your work and everything you do to tell us what's happening here in the country.
Thank you so much. Thanks
for joining us. All right, Kate Linthicum. Great. All right, moving on. The Gringo Show is sponsored by Pinche Gringo Barbecue, and the company recently opened a new location in the brand new baseball stadium, Estadio Arp Elu, that opened its doors for the first time last week to 25% capacity to start the new season of the local team, the Diablos Rojos. For more on this, let's go to Gringo Show correspondent Laila Garcia Mora with more.
Thank you, Dan. Good night to you all. I'm here at the Alfredo Harp Elu Baseball Stadium. This is an amazing space. It's not exactly new. They opened a year and a half ago, but they had to close due to pandemic. And they just opened, and they invite us to participate with our newest sandwich shop. So you can come, watch a game, have some ribs, have a sandwich, enjoy Pinche Gringo, because it's a new tradition at the baseball stadium. Thank you.
All right, that does it for this edition of The Gringo Show. Thank you so much for following us through this very exciting election campaign season. Stay with us next week for the results, post-election analysis, and big news. We will be live from New York City, right? Our first show away from Mexico City. And also, if you have an INE or know someone who has one, urge them to go out and exercise their right to vote. This is our responsibility in a democracy. When power is given to the people must feel the responsibility to be informed. They must choose who should represent them in government and then hold those elected officials accountable for their work. People fought and died in war, and many devoted their lives to preserve the institutions of democracy, of freedom, and the right to self-determination. So stop saying that everyone is corrupt and your vote doesn't matter. The only one who's going to change things here is you. So if you're binge watching Quien Mató a Sarah on Sunday, stop. It's been 2 seasons already, and we still don't have a clue who killed her. So get off your ass, drive to the polls, take some friends and family members with you. And also, if you like our show and want to follow us, please do so on our Facebook page or YouTube. It's going to be an exciting weekend, and I can't wait to see you next week to tell you what happened so you don't have to. Have a great week.
Gringo, Mexico is laughing thanks to you. We like to watch you dance salsa and listen to your bad Spanish too. We like to watch you almost die from spicy food.